Now, throughout the night, I have seen people bringing in water, food, tents. So that circle that we just showed you, there is a group of people surrounding folks who are actually in the middle. So the folks who are in the middle have set up tents, and that's where they're sitting. So as this progresses, you're going to have to bear with us here as we watch this all unfold. So we're going to try to cross the street safely. If you want to stay with us, it looks like police have now moved from where they were further down the street. They're now, it looks like and you hear sirens rolling. There have been a few instances in the last 5, 10, 15 minutes where police have given these folks a few motions to leave. So they're telling them to leave, or they are and will be subject to arrest. We're going to give you a listen to this real quick. Take a listen here. You can see officers now moving in. So this is happening now for the first time in the last 7, 8 hours. You see officers approaching the group. This is the first time police have approached the group. We're going to stay with you live as this is happening. Officers, it looks like they're trying to move the group in a different direction. Of course, we want to get out of the way so we are safe. They're moving closer towards the group. We're going to move with them as they get towards the group. If you want to take a listen, we're going to let this run for just a second. Take a listen. Again, like I said, this group has gotten significantly bigger since we saw it earlier. Police are asking us to move back, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to stay back so they can have a second to address the group. There are lights, there are sirens. Again, this has not happened throughout the course of the day. This is the first time we are seeing police physically address the group. Up until this point, we've only heard them address the group from afar, asking them to leave. And this is how they've stayed throughout the evening. So again, I'm going to give you another listen as to what's happening. I do want to apologize for any profanities that you may hear over the course of this live segment. Again, I want to apologize for any profanities that you may hear over the course of this live segment. We are now standing in front of police. Our cameras are right in front of police. You can hear people screaming. We're going to let that run for just a second. Again, I want to apologize for any profanities that you will hear over the course of this live segment. So it seems as if police are looking for a way to move the crowd. Again, we are in front of police. They have asked us to move, and that's what we have done. So now we're just kind of watching as this unfolds. I'm not too sure from my angle what they are going to ask the crowd to do at this point. It looks like they're just surrounding them. Looks like some officers are trying to talk to the group. I see an officer, a trooper, talking to one of the group members. It looks like they're having a nice conversation as to what will happen next. Again, we're going to let this roll for just a second so you can hear and see what I'm seeing. Again, I want to make a note that this is the first time police have physically walked up to the group and addressed them in this manner. There have been multiple times throughout the day, or the course of the evening, police have asked the folks who are gathered right in the middle of the grass here to leave. Now, again, we have had crews here throughout the day. Earlier this afternoon, I believe it was 3 people who were arrested during an act of protest right here in this area of campus that you're looking at. We're going to take another walk around the circle. Maybe we can get closer inside so you can see what we're seeing. As I had mentioned,
let them pray! Let them pray! Let them pray!
Take a listen.
Let them pray! Let them pray! Let them pray! Let them pray! Let them pray!
We're trying to zoom in here so you can see the group in the middle looks like they are trying to have a prayer session, and the folks in front are holding hands, giving them a second to do that.
Let them pray! Let them pray!
We're going to continue to move around the circle so you can see what's happening.
CPD, KKK, IDF, they're all the same. CPD, KKK, IDF, they're all the same. CPD, KKK, IDF, they're all the same. CPD,
And as for law enforcement, we've seen CPD, Highway Patrol is here, State Troopers, State Highway Patrol is here. We're going to take another walk around here. So we have now done a full lap around the circle. And as I have just learned in the last few seconds, that the folks in the middle are trying to have a prayer session. It looks like police are trying to either move them, get in the middle of the group. My photographer is a little taller than me, so you'll have to bear with me as I try to narrate this for you as it's happening. There's a lot of screaming, a lot of shouting. It's really difficult to figure out what people are saying, so I'm going to give you a second to digest and listen for yourself. If you can hear that right now. They're pushing people. It looks like police do have somebody on the ground. It looks like someone is now being put in handcuffs. We have two people. Now we're getting that live. We have one woman being dragged away by officers right now. There is also someone on the ground who is in handcuffs. This seems to be the first two arrests of the night. They are dragging that woman down. Absolutely. Sorry, officer. Thank you. We've been asked to back away, and that's what we're doing at the moment. Again, hear a lot of shouting and some profanities. I want to again apologize to viewers if you hear any profanity on this live stream. You can see this person on the ground, officers trying to get this person up. This looks and seems to be the second arrest of this evening, not to mention the folks I had talked about earlier. There were 3 people who were arrested earlier throughout the day, and it's not clear whether they are students here or not. We're still going to roll on this and try to get as close to the crowd as possible, but again, we're trying to make sure that we also follow the law and listen to officers as they ask us to move back. You can see as officers are trying to push the crowd. I can't get close enough to tell you exactly what is happening. It's just increasingly getting louder as more officers show up and more people surround the group. Officers giving this warning again.
Vacate the area immediately. Proceed to College Avenue, to East 12th Avenue, east of the High Street.
Again, you heard that warning. We're watching as officers. I see another person being arrested. So that is 3 by my count as of this evening. 10 o'clock at night, almost 10 minutes into our show. And we've watched, again, I have to tell you, this is not how it was throughout the day. Just as our show started at 10 o'clock tonight is when all of this is unfolding. We're trying to zoom in here. You can see officers, you can see people, so it's just a mix of folks. We can't tell where they're trying to push them. You did hear them ask folks to go to Cleveland Ave. You can hear the chanting. We're going to let you hear that for a second. the middle of this circle, there are people inside tents in their encampment. This is how it's been throughout the day. And you have folks surrounding the circle, holding on to each other, it seems like they're trying to keep police from getting inside. Again, police have not seemed to be aggressive with anybody. I see them having conversations with folks in this crowd. To be clear, I've seen a few arrests thus far. We're going to zoom in slowly in here. Again, we're going to try to make our way around the circle, but there's not much that we can see at this point from this angle. Now, we do have another camera here as well. We're trying to get more angles from each side of the circle. As more police show up, it seems like they are spread out across this group at this point. Again, I want to give you a second to listen to what is happening here.
You guys are filming, that's okay. They have to have space to leave.
You can hear that warning again. I want to correct myself. I said Cleveland Avenue, but I meant to say College Avenue. I apologize. They're asking people to go towards College Avenue. It looks like officers are trying to forcefully move the crowd. We're trying to get as close as possible without getting hurt ourselves. Again, I'm trying to let this roll out for you so you can watch it as we are seeing it ourselves. Again, this is South Oval on campus. Sorry, I just got shoved. Trying to give myself a safer space so I can talk to you clearly. You can see as more officers pile in, it looks like, again, they're trying to move the crowd in a different direction. We're going to try to move around here and see if we can get people.
Leave the area immediately. Proceed to College Avenue.
So you do a highway, say here, do a highway patrol. You got fuck out of here. Do a highway patrol here. Push my house. So doing a highway system.
Trying to give you a second to listen in.
We're now covering this live protest demonstration as police have moved in on the OSU campus, South Oval,
again,
tonight. We have photographer Mike Jones and reporter Stephanie Dupre on the scene. Mike is giving you these images now as police talk to the demonstrators, at least those on the outer perimeter. Mike, if you can hear us, maybe Stephanie can talk with some folks there and find out what their concern is tonight and what the police and law enforcers are telling them.
Subject to arrest.
We're going to try to take another walk around the circle to see if there's anybody that has walked further away that has. Hey guys, can you tell me how you're feeling in this moment? I work with
I'm an instructor here at Ohio State, and I'm really disturbed by the just violence, the police escalation. I've had students arrested. There have been other Ohio State alums that have been arrested at other campuses, and this is just an incredible show of force from the university, and this is directly from the administration sicking CPD on their students, and I don't understand it, because this has been nothing but peaceful. I've been here all day.
And how long have you been affiliated with the school?
I've been here since 2012, so I've been coming to these kinds of protests for 12 years, and I've never seen this sort of police escalation before. It's very extreme.
And it seems like they've left you alone throughout the day, and this is the first time that we've really seen them come towards the group. So have they tried to? And can you tell us what's happening in the middle of the circle?
They were praying Isha, which is the last prayer of the day, and they decided to come and ambush and try and get in the middle of the group while they were praying their prayer.
CPD did arrest 3 people earlier today. There were some students that were arrested for sitting on this lawn. This is our green space where students on nice days camp out, and it's ridiculous that we can't have a similar sort of affair with a message, if that message is an affront to the university in some way.
And it seems like they're trying to push the crowd into a different direction. Have they told you why they're trying to push you in a different direction, or where they're trying to push you?
They say that students are criminally trespassing at their own university, and I don't understand how that's possible when the majority of the people here are enrolled at this school as students.
And how does it? Oh my gosh! All right. It's all right. Someone was just pulled to the ground. It looks like police are making another arrest. They have arrested a handful of people at this time. You just heard from an instructor who said she's been here for many years and did not anticipate this outcome tonight. The folks police are now pulling the tent. They're going to try to pull people out of the tent. You can see police tearing it apart. It looks like they're trying to get folks who are inside the tent out of the tent. And as you just heard, they were in the middle praying, is what we were just told. And in those moments, you saw police rip a few people to the ground, and they are under arrest. I see them being put in handcuffs at this moment. We're going to get in closer here, as close as we can, so we are, number 1, safe. Number 2, do not get pushed to the ground ourselves.
Stephanie Dupre live there on the campus of Ohio State as protests continue at this hour. Stephanie, if you can hear us, we know that there have been instructions given throughout the day.
You're watching this unfold just as we are.
Stephanie, what have the police shared with this group about the deadline they are giving them at this point? Because
sorry, communication is going to be difficult. It's very loud over here. There's a lot going on. I'm trying to watch my body, other people around me, listening to officers' instructions. Police are asking people to move towards College Avenue. So they're trying to, again, I'm trying to figure out where they're trying to move the crowd specifically. I did try to ask someone who said she had a conversation with one of the officers, and they don't really know what's happening. I think from what I'm seeing, this is escalating to a point where people are just being arrested now. People are being put in cuffs. I'm not sure where they're trying to push the crowd. I think they're trying to disperse people. But again, they have asked people to leave and go towards College Avenue. Seeing more people being pulled, almost yanked out of the crowd. They are also being arrested. Again, I'll have to apologize. It's really hard to hear you guys, but if you want to try to ask any more questions, I know I have my photographer here with me, and maybe we can both try to navigate that together. College Avenue and High Street, I believe is what you just said. We're trying to get as close as possible, of course, without getting hurt ourselves. There's a lot happening in this moment. They're telling people they are subject to arrest if they do not leave now. We've heard that same sentence, I would say, quite a few times since we've been here throughout the night.
Stephanie, I want to ask you another question. As you've been speaking with protesters tonight, have they given you any idea for their specific goal of their protest tonight?
And as for protest goals, they just want themselves, to be heard. I believe, earlier we were talking to folks out here who had said they have issues here with the university and, things that they don't really... Oh, I apologize. I just got pushed again. I'm trying to get to a better space so I can sit and speak with you. Again, the goal, as I was trying to say, is for their voices to be heard. I talked to quite a few people today who said they just want people to know, how they feel in this moment, in this time. There's a lot of high, intense emotions here, and it's been like that throughout the course of the day.
Stephanie, are you seeing anybody actually obeying the order to leave and leaving the scene?
I haven't personally seen anybody from the group specifically leave. There are people surrounding campus right now here at South Oval, kind of watching everything as it happens from a distance. But when it comes to people who are specifically in this circle that we have had our cameras on for hours and hours throughout the course of the day, no, they have not. I have not seen them. I just saw somebody chuck or throw a water bottle full of water. Again, I want to apologize. It's hard to communicate with all of the noise. We're trying to wiggle ourselves in here so we can show you what we're seeing. Of course, abiding by what police have asked us to do. I want to apologize for any profanities that you may hear on this live stream.
There is a higher power.
As my photographer stays there, though, I am going to take a walk around. I'm also, I'm going to take a second to reconvene with my photographer. So Bob and Stacia, I'm going to give you the floor for a second so I can take a walk around and just kind of regroup myself.
All right, if you're just joining us here, this is a very tense situation that's been unfolding since the top of the hour, since 10 o'clock almost to sharp, on the OSU campus, South Oval near the Union, where a large group of demonstrators has been all evening, all afternoon, all day, in fact. And at 10 o'clock tonight, various law enforcement agencies moved in and are trying to get the group to disperse.
And at this hour, we've seen multiple people taken into custody. We are watching this very closely because at this point, it appears that law enforcement are working to disperse the crowd. They're moving in. They are pulling some people out. And the students, and we heard from an instructor there on site saying they are trying to pray. They are trying to get their message across. And at this hour, it does not appear that the two groups, the police, the law enforcement, as well as the protesters, have reached any kind of agreement on what we're going to do going forward.
Here, as we can tell, the group is sort of set up in a circle. There was a middle area where some protesters in tents were located, and as Stacia said, there was the word that they were praying with the tents in that center part, protected by row after row of demonstrators. The police just moved in, or one of the agencies, probably the State Patrol, they seem to be the most numerous, moved in and began to haul the tents out and take the people out of the tents just moments ago. And here again, the situation escalating again, another person being taken to the ground, presumably to be arrested.
We want to go back to our Stephanie Dupre live within the crowd now. Stephanie, what are you seeing?
Yeah, Bob and Stacia, I have a better ear on you now. In the last maybe, 10 minutes, I think we've seen about maybe 6 or 7 people taken to the ground and arrested. So we're looking at one of those arrests right now. Actually, we're standing in front of a line of officers that have asked us to be further away from the crowd at this moment. So if you want to take a look, and we're going to try to zoom in. I'm going to move around here. We're zooming in on that arrest happening at this moment. We're going to take a walk. Now again, the group, as police are running right into the circle. We're trying to give you a better vision of this happening. Very intense moments here tonight. Again, as you heard from that professor I just spoke to earlier, Instructor, she said she did not anticipate this to happen tonight or be at this type of degree. I do want to say that, 3 people were arrested this afternoon, of course, throughout the day. Again, there's way more being arrested tonight. But, when we got here, we had crews here all day. But when I got here personally, I heard police maybe address the crowd, I would say 1 or 2 times, asking them to leave. And again, it has been several hours. Right at 10 o'clock as we started, as I had said to you, this is what started happening at 10 o'clock, right on the dot. And this is what we've seen happen since. So we're watching police, again, trying to move the crowd in a different direction. I'm not too sure.
I just need a clear path out of here.
Clear path, got it, absolutely. That's, again, police asking us to make a clear path for people either who want to leave or, and again, as we're seeing right now, another person being arrested. Someone is on the ground. They're arresting people. We're going to zoom in here so you can see this happening. Someone else on the ground being arrested. Now, by my count, that is about 7. There's another one, 8. So they are arresting people as they go. There are folks hanging on tight to that circle. And again, as we had said, the folks in the middle were intense and they were trying to pray, is what I was told. Asking again us to leave a clear path. I'm being shoved right now, so give me a second to get back on my feet here. Hold on. Asking us to back up, which is what we will do.
We're going to let Stephanie get to a space that right now might be a little calmer while we continue to cover what's happening on the OSU campus. Again, we've been following this since the top of the hour as law enforcement moved in on protests there on campus as protesters continue to voice their concerns over the university. They want the university to stop doing business with companies that they say support Israel's war. And that has been the cry from protesters today for the university to divest from those companies.
Similar to the message being spread at college campuses across the country on what has been a very busy day for protests. This one, peaceful throughout the day, and not to say that it isn't peaceful now, but obviously tensions running very, very high, and the pace of arrests seems to be picking up here in the last few minutes as well. We talked with the instructor that Stephanie mentioned, an OSU instructor expressing her disapproval with this response. She was in fact dismayed and you could tell was angry at the response, saying after a dozen years of watching protests on campus, she'd never seen a response this strong from law enforcement, and blaming the administration for that.
And today, even, we've seen this to be a growing issue across the country on college campuses as the semester is wrapping up. In fact, today protests at Emory University in Georgia, Emerson College in Massachusetts, the University of Southern California. Again, campuses across the country seeing protests similar to this, tents being set up, encampments being set up. Ohio State hoping to avoid some of that with protesting happening. And it seemed earlier today, as protesters gathered, that the university had dispersed things early on, and then students and other members of the community showed up today at around 5 o'clock, and this crowd has only grown since then.
Again, the law enforcement moving in precisely at 10 o'clock. The backside of this circle, as we understand it right now, appears to be considerably calmer than the side where our other camera is and where police are removing the protesters and arresting some of them. But no real signs, at least from the views we've been able to see, of people actually leaving the scene. And here's a look at the other camera that we have on the scene right now. Again, this is on the South Oval right by the Ohio Union.
We have a statement just in from Ohio State University. Benjamin Johnson, a spokesman, saying at this hour, well-established university rules prohibit camping and overnight events. Demonstrators exercised their First Amendment rights for several hours and were then instructed to disperse. Individuals who refused to leave after multiple warnings were arrested and charged with criminal trespass. Again, that statement coming in from Ohio State just in the last few moments. So we continue following this happening at this hour on the campus of Ohio State, just outside of the Student Union. You can see it there in the background tonight, a crowd that has only grown since 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Stacia mentioning that the protesters have been calling for the university to divest financial interests in Israel and in areas, companies that are supporting the Israeli cause in the conflict with Palestine. It turns out, we've discovered tonight, that state law prevents the university from divesting in Israel. Ohio Revised Code Section 9.76 went into effect a couple of years ago, and even if it wanted to, the school isn't allowed to back out of a deal because one group has a problem with Israel. It's called the anti-BDS law. That's boycott, divestment, and sanctions. The change for this has to come from the State House, not from campus.
A reminder again, this is finals week. OSU administration hoping to focus on finals and less on scenes like this. But again, this has been a growing concern throughout the day as tensions have risen on the OSU campus. Earlier this week, we did get a statement from University President Ted Carter indicating students would be allowed to voice concerns, wanting to hear student concerns. But disruptions to campus life, he said, and violence would not be tolerated. And again, you heard just moments ago the statement from Ben Johnson with Ohio State indicating that overnight events on campus would not be allowed as well.
You know, it's interesting, if you just from an audible standpoint, if you listen to the ebb and flow of the chanting and of the outrage, we seem to have found ourselves, at least right now, in a bit of a lull, and the troopers are no longer bringing people out of the circle here and arresting them. We'll have to maintain, hopefully maintain this calm for the rest of the evening, but we've seen tensions rise very suddenly without much warning, so we'll just have to watch this situation very closely.
We continue following this at this hour because it does not at this moment appear that things are calming down, even though things have quieted down. You can still see a number of troopers on site. We've seen other law enforcement groups as part of this situation as well. We want to go back to our Stephanie Dupre, who is live there with the protesters tonight. Stephanie, what else are you hearing at this hour, and where are you in relation to what we are seeing?
Yeah, Bob and Stacia, we are right in the middle of it. We are right in the middle of what is happening. And as you said, things are escalating. It seems like a lull and it's quiet, but that's not, not what's happening. It looks like the chanting has stopped for a brief moment. It's hard to get into the middle of that circle, again, trying to abide by what police have asked us to do. And obviously, we want to keep ourselves safe. But at this moment, people are still, the folks who are on the outside of the circle, again, are holding arms, trying to, desperately protect the folks who are in the middle. And from what I was told, while you guys were speaking, that they are still trying to pray. And officers are still asking, law enforcement are still asking people to leave. That does not seem to be the case at this moment. I wonder if we can wiggle in here and see if we can get anything from anybody else. Hey, how you guys doing? How are you feeling? What is going on? Do you feel like you're going to move at any moment?
I don't know, just anxious, I guess.
And I guess, tell me, why are you here and what are you doing?
So we're here to support Gaza, as everyone should, but if these people think that it's terrible to stand, then fucking arrest everyone for standing.
Are you a student here?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay, and have you been here all day?
No, only a couple hours.
And can you tell us what is happening in this moment and what is happening in the middle of the circle that we cannot see?
There is a prayer, and we are trying to protect these people who are praying, but I guess the cops are against praying.
And seeing police here, how does that make you feel?
I mean, this is what we expected, but I am okay with this. I made this decision because I believe in things, and if people believe in things, then they need to stand up. because a lot of people are not standing up.
Thank you very much. So we're going to, I've been asked to move by police. I believe I just got asked again, so that's what I'm going to do. They did let me stand there to talk to that protester for a second, so I'm going to move in this moment. Again, increasing, tensions rising here, as you just heard. She didn't comment on whether she was a student here or not, but she did want to be here and stand in solidarity with the group for something, that they believe in. That's one of the reasons that they're here, to make their voice heard.
Don't say it's
You can hear people getting agitated. You can hear things that people are saying from either right next to me, across from me. Again, we have police pulling somebody else out of the circle. If I can get around here, I can show you that they are, in fact, being arrested.
We are watching what's happening on Ohio State's campus at this hour, where protesters are being dispersed by law enforcement at this hour. Joining us on the phone right now for perspective on the law enforcement action being taken that we are seeing is retired Delaware County Sheriff Russ Martin joining us now. Sheriff, we appreciate your time tonight. When you look at this scene happening right now at Ohio State, what do you see from a law enforcement perspective?
Well, my comments are only as an observer, but one who had 43 years of experience in law enforcement. And I will tell you that law enforcement's effort is coordinated tonight. I'm sure there was significant briefing in advance as to what the objectives would be. And it would probably really benefit if one of your reporters could locate, a spokesperson for law enforcement. Again, I'm just being a little bit presumptuous, but I suspect that the possibility of an encampment or the tents could be problematic and be a violation. So there's probably more to this than meets the eye, obviously.
As you look at this and the coordinated effort that it would take, based on the training that you have been through yourself and that you see at play right now, what are the key points that you are looking at?
Well, I think you've got multiple agencies present, which means that there's been a coordinated effort well in advance. There's been discussions and planning. I mean, this is not something that's haphazard. Obviously, my perspective is from law enforcement. I think they're controlled, they're professional, they've learned a lot through the last couple of years, including some of the riots that we saw in previous years. And I think this is these are difficult circumstances. You want to obviously honor the First Amendment rights of those folks, but there's other issues that can require law enforcement intervention. And again, I'm just being presumptuous as an observer, but I would suspect that there's a concern probably for the tents and maybe, the encampment. But again, I think a law enforcement representative on the scene, somebody who's a spokesperson, could probably tell you clearly what they're trying to accomplish.
Russ, what do you suspect? I know you're not there, but with all of your experience, what do you suspect were the instructions for the law enforcers as they moved in tonight from their higher ups?
Well, there's always discussion on the value of honoring the Constitution and protecting people's First Amendment rights. You want to be, while you're exhibiting force, you want to be pragmatic and considerate. You could see that law enforcement was trying to communicate and talk to many of the folks that are on the scene. Again, that's an indication of well-trained, a coordinated effort. So they're trying to communicate. And but the fact that they're moving forward, and I've seen some tents removed, there's probably some other objectives that they're trying to accomplish.
Retired Sheriff Delaware County Russ Martin joining us live on the phone for perspective on the law enforcement initiative, what we are seeing tonight. on the campus of Ohio State. Sheriff, thank you so much for your time tonight. We are checking back in with our reporter, Stephanie Dupre, who has been live on the scene tonight and has been taking us through what's happening here from a couple of different vantage points. So, Stephanie, I know you are in the fray there and you're getting shoved and kind of moved in this as well. What can you tell us about what you are seeing and what is changing at this hour?
Yeah, Stacia, we have not moved. We have been in the thick of what is happening since all of this started. And I do want to comment, on we just heard from law enforcement, from that law enforcement's perspective. I did want to reiterate that I did touch base on how officers, from what I'm seeing, have handled this situation. Again, I have been here for hours and I've watched as police have asked the group to leave. I heard it multiple times. I even sent it out on social media. I've been tweeting about it all day, just showing that perspective from the group to law enforcement. So again, I have been there throughout the day and I have seen how the group has acted and how law enforcement has acted. And at this point, and again, as we heard from that law enforcement perspective, at some point in any type of situation, as you can imagine, they would have to intervene. And that is what we're seeing at this point. Sorry? I just got pushed again, so I'm just going to
Thank you, Stephanie. Again, we hear the law enforcers calling out to the crowd over the loudspeakers that they are under arrest for criminal trespassing, and they have been hauling folks out of that circle. It's a circle of folks encircling a group that were in tents that we're told were inside the middle praying. Some of the tents have been removed. We've had a good look inside there now, and in fact, there are a number of green tents in there, and again, some people have been removed out of them, and some of the tents have been taken away. The folks encircling it right now, linking arms in many cases, and being told by the law enforcers who are staring them down that they are going to be arrested, and we have seen several arrests now, probably as many as a dozen.
One of the orders we heard earlier tonight from law enforcement on scene saying you were in violation of university space rules, you are subject to arrest under Ohio Revised Code and for criminal trespassing. That's what we heard earlier. That was hours ago, and law enforcement has maintained their presence. And then at 10 o'clock, that presence grew exponentially, and it seemed they were working to disperse this crowd right there at the top of the hour. Again, tensions high on the OSU campus tonight, along with many other campuses across the country, as students and protesters call for the university to divest from companies they believe are connected to the Israel-Hamas war.
We don't really have a good indication at this point visually of just how many people, if in fact anybody, has actually dispersed as per the instructions from law enforcers. There have been plenty of people still around and continuing to chant and stare down the law enforcement presence. And there are the tents, some of them anyway, that are inside the middle of that ring.
I want to go back to a statement that University President Ted Carter issued earlier this week about the tensions that they could sense on campus that were already rising. And now we see these protests here tonight that have grown throughout the day. Part of the quote that the president of Ohio State issued earlier this week includes, "When protected speech becomes incitement or threats of violence, Ohio State has and will always move quickly to enforce the law and university policy. I will not compromise on this." Again, that is a quote from President Ted Carter with Ohio State from earlier this week, in a message that was sent to the university body. So potentially all students who are here on site have received that message. And you can hear the students chanting at this hour, protesters, I should say, because we know this is a mix of students, community members. We heard from an instructor earlier this hour, and our Stephanie Dupre is there live as well, speaking with the people who are there and what they want to say. Stephanie, what do you continue to hear?
Yes, we continue to hear the chanting. I'm trying to get into the middle of the group here. This is the first time we're getting a look at the circle this close. Now, I want to just say, you know, the professor that we spoke to maybe about a half hour ago, I did see police arrest her. So they are making arrests as they make these comments. I'm going to try to get into the middle of this circle here so we can... You know what? I see one of our local folks whom we know. Here, take a listen.
Then we can get everyone out. We can do that. And then come back tomorrow.
Tighten up! Tighten up!
Right now you're seeing state oppression to the highest amount over Palestinian people who are peacefully protesting. We're seeing nothing but aggression from the police officers here on OSU's campus. They were aggressive early in the morning, arresting multiple students, and now they're doing so in the most violent way possible, destroying a peaceful encampment.
About the person who was praying, and they ripped off their
What is happening inside of the tent? We can't see. This is the first time we're getting as close.
Inside of the tent? There's no one inside of the tents at the moment. But what's happening? They were arresting people and assaulting people while they were praying. They ripped off a woman's hijab while she was praying and arrested her. As Lamont was saying, this is totally against the rules. They've criminalized protests on college campuses. And they're doing this nationwide, and they're doing it here in the largest university in the United States.
Hearing from you guys, directly, do you feel like your voices were heard at all today?
Not by the administration, but by the community. I think our voices are being heard collectively throughout the nation as a global movement. Students around the country, around the world, are being heard, and this is being commented on in Israel, in Palestine, across the world. Everyone is seeing this. Everyone is seeing the way the United States shifts straight towards authoritarianism, the same way they did during the Vietnam War, the same way they've done towards black people protesting for their liberation in 2020.
Did you have something you wanted to add? I'm sorry.
I completely agree with what Yesin has been saying. We've seen nothing but strong repressive tactics being used by OSU administration. It took them forever to just acknowledge the right of life of a Palestinian person here, and Palestinian students on this campus have always been under the abuseful optics of OSU admin. So what you're seeing right now is literally a peaceful protest, a peaceful gathering. There was no ill will intent. There's some tents, there was some food, there was some water. And what you're seeing right now is a complete overreaction by police where they're ripping people's hijabs off. They're violently arresting people. People have been tased. They've been threatening violence this entire day.
And to see you as a familiar face here, we've seen you throughout the community, and now we see you here at OSU on campus. I want to ask, I did see officers, or troopers talking to protesters before this happened. So I want to ask, throughout the course of the day, has anyone a part of this group walked up to law enforcement and told them what? I mean, I just want to ask as out of curiosity.
There were multiple conversations, multiple attempts of conversations, and when those conversations were attempted to be had, officers were not willing to listen to students. Admin avoided every conversation possible with students, and that's what has led to this result here. So there was an attempt by students, but not by admin.
Got it. And at this point, have you been told, are they trying to push the crowd in this direction? Do you know, what is the point of this? Why are they lined up over there? Have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything at all. I would assume it's just a way to confuse people. I would assume it plays into their tactics. I do not know why they're trying to force violence on people, but that's exactly what they have been doing.
And I assume you guys are going to continue to stay here for the rest of the day. It looks like your tents are destroyed.
The tents are destroyed. Our spirits are not. We're actually going to move people out of here because the officers have been so incredibly violent. We know we have to leave in order to protect our community. And that's our biggest goal, is protecting our community, making sure that their voices are heard. We believe that their voices have been heard today as problems have been raised and people's consciousness has been raised. And anybody can see the amount of violence that people are going through here right now at OSU.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. And Bob and Stacia, as you guys, I'm just hearing now, we got right into the middle of the circle. We've been trying to get in this specific space for hours the entire day. So I want to toss it over to you guys for a second so maybe we can readjust and regroup so we don't get ourselves in a situation.
Okay, Stephanie Dupre live on Ohio State's campus at this hour where tensions continue to escalate there outside of the student union, the Ohio Union there, where protesters have been gathered throughout the day, but just in the last few hours, things have really grown in this space as far as tension, as far as numbers of protesters, as they continue to ask Ohio State to divest from companies they believe support the war between Israel and Hamas.
And you can see the collection of tents that have been ripped up by law enforcement, some of them destroyed, people actually taken out of them earlier. Here, the law enforcement moving in at exactly 10 o'clock tonight, coming in lines and moving to this large circle, multi-rows of folks encircling this encampment of green tents. And again, as Stephanie Dupre just pointed out, she's finally made it into the inner ring of that, and we see the collection of tents that's since been destroyed. A protester noting that the world is watching U.S. college campuses, many of which have had protests throughout the day today, and decrying what he called an overreaction by law enforcers in breaking up what he called this peaceful protest that had been going on day at OSU.
Just in the last half hour, we received a statement from Ohio State about what's happening here tonight on campus. Benjamin Johnson, spokesperson, shared with us earlier, well-established university rules prohibit camping and overnight events. Demonstrators exercised their First Amendment rights for several hours and were then instructed to disperse. Individuals who refused to leave after multiple warnings were arrested and charged with criminal trespass. And again, you can see a large law enforcement presence on campus at this hour. You can see there is a seal right there on a patch there for the Ohio State Highway Patrol, who has a large presence here tonight. But this appears to be a coordinated law enforcement effort among multiple agencies. At times it is difficult to determine which agencies are on site right now, but it does appear that the Highway Patrol are in control of this situation or leading the situation at this hour.
Well, a protester just telling our Stephanie Dupre that he was going to try to be part of an effort to move people out and avoid violence, but we're seeing no signs of movement toward College Avenue from the South Oval, which is what law enforcement is trying to make happen here, trying to get these folks to disperse and move toward College Avenue. But again, we don't see any movement, at least from this group, at this point.
And this is what we have seen across the country. It is not just Ohio State where protests like this have been happening even today from coast to coast. We've seen schools with protesters on site, and we've been following this again from coast to coast as we continue to follow protests regarding the Israel-Hamas war. We want to go to Stephanie Dupre live for us now, where we are checking in on her perspective and what she is seeing at this hour. Stephanie?
We were in the middle of that circle, and we've actually made our way out. And again, yes, so that who I was speaking to, Ramon Obey, he is a local guy that we have talked to many times. You know, he comes out to events like this to help protesters, talk with police. You know, as you just heard him say, he is also trying to help move the crowd in a different direction. It looks like it's trying to happen, not all the way there yet, but we have moved. You know, the circle has now been completely detached. You can see Ramon right now. I don't know if we can see him in there, but you can see him in the middle of the circle right now with police telling people to move back or asking them to move back. So you can see we are now caught up in the middle of the circle. So give me a second to maybe get to a safe space so I can get out of here so I can narrate to you what I'm seeing so I don't get pushed over. All right, as I just heard, Ramon, you can hear him. Take a listen.
We're moving this way.
Now the group. I'm going to step out of frame here. The group seems to be moving to College Avenue, or at least that's the direction that we're going now. Officers following, as you just heard, Ramon asking the crowd to move with him. It looks like that is what is happening in this moment. So we're gonna let you take a look and see what is happening. We're gonna walk more towards the Union. We're gonna try to get out of the grass for a moment. All right, so at this point, oh, here, I'm gonna take a look this way. Telling people to go home. So Ramon has just made a comment to another protester and asked them to communicate to others and ask them to go home for the night.
Just to make a note that this is what happens on OSU campus when peaceful protesters attempt to practice their freedom of speech and their freedom of assembly. This is how the university reacts. It sends riot troopers on us, students who pay to go to school.
Can I have your first and last name, and are you a student here?
I am not a student, but I came with students. My name is Mohammed Mustafa, and I came here with the SJP to join them in this Gaza encampment, to stand in solidarity with Palestinians fighting against genocide and calling this university to divest from death, and calling this university to divest from Israeli corporations that are profiting off of the death of Palestinians in Gaza. And this is the reaction. We get violent police officers ripping the hijabs off of peaceful protesters, trying to assault peaceful Palestinian worshippers who were praying. They were pushing in on us and barricading us. Their legs were on our arms as we were praying. This is how we get treated for simply expressing our freedom of assembly and freedom of speech at the Ohio State University. This is what the university does to students, to peaceful protesters, and to concerned community members. Instead of being an institution that promotes higher learning and promotes justice, inequality, and equity, they are cracking down on their students who are standing up for what is right. And they are attacking them and doing a mass arrest campaign against college students. And this is a symbol for what is happening greater in our world. That the forces of evil and the forces that are standing to profit off the genocide of Palestinians are continuously cracking down as their last grasp of power.
I appreciate you speaking with me. Thank you very much. I seem to have lost my photographer, so I'm going to take a walk around and see if I can find him. But in the meantime, I'm just going to narrate to you what I am seeing. So I'm going to take a walk around and see if I can locate him. It looks like police have made this one line. I was able to find him, so I'm going to walk over this way. So it looks like police now, the circle again, the circle, there is no more circle. Police are all in one line.
If your car is north, you have to go out through High Street.
I can hear protesters talking to one another, asking them to move in a different direction. Officers are moving forward. Okay, hold on. It's all right. All right. It's all right. Take a whoop. I'm here. All right. All right. I apologize for the profanities. I just got pushed. Give me a second. I apologize for the profanities. I just got pushed again. I'm trying not to fall over. So you're seeing what I'm seeing. Police are moving everybody forward. I apologize if I sound out of breath. I'm trying not to get trampled by people as police move people forward. I'm going to stand behind my photographer so you can see what I can see. And as you see, police are moving people towards College Drive. We're going to head this way. Again, you hear people screaming. Officers have now stopped, but this is where they're standing now, pushing the crowd further away from the Union. We're going to let this kind of narrate out so you can hear what I'm hearing. Again, you hear protesters right now telling each other to go home at this point. I think I've heard it maybe 6 or 7 times now, especially some of the folks, like, again, those familiar faces that we have seen. Again, this is where police are standing now. If we can get the camera down, you can see how long that line is. You can see how many officers are standing here now trying to keep people away from the middle. You can see if we can get the camera to see all that trash and everything in the middle. You can see. Sorry, I'm trying not to speak over everybody else and also not trying to scream. People are now running.
Oh my God. Everything is okay. We're okay. Everything is okay. We're okay. People are being tackled to the ground. My photographer and I are trying to be careful so we don't get knocked over ourselves. I'm not sure what just escalated this, but people are now being shoved even further down the street. I'm not really. Oh my God. I apologize. I was just pushed over.
We're going to let Stephanie get to a safe space for a moment while we watch what is happening, where tensions have just escalated in the last few moments as it appeared that protesters were dispersing here on site of the Ohio State campus. We know that Ohio State Highway Patrol appears to be leading the law enforcement effort. We can't see specifically what other agencies are involved. We've been looking for comments on Twitter from CPD and Ohio State Police, and neither have commented on the situation that is happening on this campus at this hour. But again, you can see this is a coordinated effort among multiple law enforcement agencies as they work to disperse this group. We've seen several arrests in the last hour as troopers moved in at around 10 o'clock. We saw a very specific effort to disperse the crowd at that time, and things have just escalated from there.
Yeah, we saw what would appear to be a very positive development as far as dispersing the crowd here. Oh, there's Stephanie. We'll get back to you. Oh,
yeah,
Stephanie?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, no, you were right. There was a positive development, and I kind of just want to put myself on camera so I feel like you guys haven't really seen me because I've been narrating what is happening around me. But we are okay at this point. I cannot tell you really what just happened, but as you saw it for yourself, it looked like a few people.
While we're praying. While we were praying.
I hear you. Again, I wanted to get myself on camera to show you that we are okay. Again, I'm not sure what just escalated, but something escalated and you saw it for yourself. So the crowd is still moving in the direction, I believe. We are no one is on the grounds anymore. So again, Stephanie, I just wanted to kind of just get myself on camera here.
Stephanie, you talked with the demonstrator, I believe his name is Ramon, and you knew him, and he mentioned that he was going to try to convince folks to move the way that the law enforcement is telling them to move towards college to avoid violence, and he appeared to be having some success. It looked like the crowd was in fact breaking up to a certain degree before we saw that altercation a moment ago.
Yeah, Bob, that's exactly right, and that's what is trying to happen at this point. I think you've been watching us move forward maybe the last 5 minutes. I can't really give you a specific direction in which they're trying to push the crowd, only because it's just one long strip of officers. But yes, I did speak to Ramon, and we have talked to him multiple times, so many times, I think throughout the course of the year. So again, as these protests happen, again, this was not the scene earlier today. This was not the scene before 10 o'clock at night. So a lot of people that I spoke to said they are surprised that this escalated to this degree.
Stephanie,
yes, go ahead.
Can you describe to us where you are? Because we know you were there in front of the Ohio Union, but where are you now? Can you describe what we are seeing, what intersection that is?
Attention, you're under arrest for criminal trespass. You are to leave the area.
Sorry, I just had to take a second. We are now on the corner of College Road. So we have made our way, not just me, but everyone who is here tonight. We are now in the middle of College Road. So we're at that intersection, literally right before the Union. So, we've moved, I would say, significantly, but they're still trying to push folks. And again, they just wanted folks out of that area, and they just said go towards College Road, and that's where everybody is standing at this moment. So now we're just kind of walking around with the crowd to see, what people are doing, what they're saying. So that's kind of where we are, and here's a better vantage point of what police is looking like. So this is the intersection. This is the corner of where we are on College Road. This is West 12th Ave. So take a look at what police looks like now. So you were seeing police in an entire group together, and now they're just lining the street all the way down so nobody can trespass.
Why are they lining the street?
You'll have to...
I have no idea why. I just got here. Sorry.
That's okay.
So Stephanie Dupre.
So as you just heard,
there.
some people are confused.
Sure. No, Stephanie Dupre live for us tonight, who's been following this protest as it continues on the OSU campus at this hour. And then, Stephanie, is there any idea how many of the protesters you saw in that group? Is there any way to know how many of them were students? Because it seems like the majority of the folks you talked to were not actually affiliated with the university, or they were not students.
You know what, Stacia, that's a very good point, and I actually meant to address that. But there is, again, as you can see, a lot happening. I want to say a lot of folks I was speaking to today did say they are not students. However, earlier I did get a chance to speak to a student who is affiliated with the university. She's affiliated with one of the groups here, but most of them, again, and I can't even, honestly, I feel like I can't even give you a ballpark of a number, because the group, at least from earlier today into tonight, it just kind of kept growing and growing, and you can't, at this point, you can't really tell the difference from folks who are affiliated with the protest and folks who are kind of just standing by, watching as this all unfolds. And again, you just heard, someone come up to me and she said, "Hey, what is going on?" And it's a student. She had a backpack and, a laptop in her hand, and she's like, "What is going on?" So it's really a mix out here. So, I'm sorry I can't give you a specific number or even gauge it for you.
Sure. No, I mean, and that's part of what's so confusing in this moment as we speak to what's happening on campus. It doesn't necessarily reflect that these are all students or all people affiliated with the campus, even at all.
Stephanie, are they having any success in getting folks dispersed? It looks like they are, but do you have a better vantage point?
Yeah, Bob, and that's a yes and a no answer. I can't, there's obviously a lot of people spread out across the area at this point, and officers, the police and law enforcement is trying to make sure they keep a steady line so people don't cross into, the Union south of the South Oval area. It looks like people are starting to leave slowly but surely. I've seen a few, trickle out, but again, it seems like people are just kind of standing here, and I don't really know at this point what they're waiting for. I actually just kind of saw Ramon walking by across the street, and it looks like he's trying to, get others to help him communicate, because I heard him say it multiple times. Just everybody, oh, there he is. Maybe we can go catch him real quick. Give me a second.
And she is speaking to Ramon Obey, a local social justice leader connected to the Justice, Unity, and Social Transformation movement. And that's who has been serving as a bit of an organizer for this effort on campus today. And Stephanie Dupre has spoken with him multiple times and looking to connect with him right now about what's happening and the goals at this hour.
There's no other reason to be here. So what we are recommending as organizers of the event, to go home. It's the best thing that you can do. Do not empty our bail fund because you just want to be here for the moment. If we're not doing something in terms of collective action, it's not worth it. It's that simple. I know some of y'all's friends got arrested, some of your loved ones got arrested, but just standing around is not going to change that. The best thing you can do is go home in this moment. Send that information to the bail fund so we can bail them out.
It sounds like, Ramon, have you had any, luck trying to get people that message across? Are people trying to disperse? What are you seeing? We've been trying to follow you.
People are dispersing, but the police officers here have been ever aggressive. They have been following the people as they have been dispersing and causing more pain as they have stepped over people, destroyed the camp. Again and again, we're seeing officers be ruthlessly aggressive towards people who are just peacefully protesting and gathering here at OSU, and it makes absolutely no sense.
We're trying to see if people are, listening to you and trying to get that message across. But why do you think folks are not leaving?
Because Palestine ain't free. And sometimes it's that simple. When you are an oppressed people, you're going to stay and fight. And sometimes it hits that nice high point where you just ain't going to leave and you just ain't going to take it no more. And these some people who ain't going to take it no more. This is the people that's fed up. This is a community that's fed up. We're tired of seeing this. We're tired of being around these police officers that are ever aggressive. And it makes absolutely no sense.
And at this point in the night, I guess, what else are you going to do now? You're going to walk around to each crowd? I guess, what are you going to do just as someone, we've been following you for years now, and we watch you when you show up to these events. And to be honest with you, this is not the first time that I have seen you with a line of police behind you when you were trying to help. I heard you in many different facets tonight with protesters and saying, hey, let's do this, let's calmly do this. So, what is next for you tonight when it comes to talking to complete strangers, and as we watch, the night progress?
My goal is safety. I want all my people to go home and be safe. That's always my number one goal when we come out here. We have the right to peacefully assemble. We have the right to protest. We have the right to take up space. But somehow, some way, these officers seem to always be more aggressive than they really need to be, which puts me in the position of going around and telling folks that, look, we came together, we did something amazing, we did something collectively, but it's time for us to leave. So safety is on my mind right now, and just making sure that people get home safe. That's my number one goal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ramon. We appreciate it. Again, as you just heard from Ramon, he's going to walk around to folks and talk to them about not only what has happened tonight, but what he needs to do in this moment. Again, safety being that top priority. Bob and Stacia, do you have a second to chime in here with me?
Absolutely. Stephanie Dupre live there speaking with Ramon Obey, who is a local social justice leader and one of the organizers of tonight's protest, because there have been protests throughout the day in this space there next to the Ohio Union, but it seems in that 5 o'clock call for folks to gather, things really started to intensify, and by 10 o'clock tonight, that's when we saw troopers move in a coordinated effort to disperse this crowd. And so you are looking at the dispersed crowd, who they have not left the area, but they have definitely left that green space area that we saw next to the Union.
This was a much denser crowd, even as little as a half an hour ago on the South Oval. It was a large ring for the most part, multiple layers deep, in the middle of which was a group of green tents that we were told contained folks who were praying, and then the law enforcers moved in and told the folks that they had to go home, and told them that they were trespassing, criminal trespassing in fact, and began to break up the crowd. It actually took Ramon getting involved here about a half an hour ago, imploring demonstrators to go home, before we actually saw some widespread movement. Most of the folks moving towards College Avenue. Again, right now they are on the southeast corner of College Road and West 12th, right by the Ohio Union there. The long line of police have managed to get folks pretty much at least a dense part of the demonstration dispersed. They are still collected in the area loosely, but there's a long line of law enforcement right now keeping an eye on folks, making sure that they stay on College Road and the West 12th area. But still many remaining on the scene at OSU here at 11:15.
Again, growing tensions throughout the day here on Ohio State's campus, but there have been growing tensions across the country at university campuses just like this, from coast to coast. So you were looking at the line of officers from, let's see, that appears to be, it's hard to see which university, which
if you want to
agencies. Yes, Stephanie, if you would take us. Before we go to you, Stephanie, we want to go back to retired Delaware County Sheriff Russ Martin joining us on the phone now. Russ, at this point, when you see how the crowd has mostly dispersed, what is the goal of law enforcement at this hour to keep things calmer as we see right now?
Well, I think that you're looking at multiple open roadways and egress. Obviously, they'd like to see the crowd now move on for the evening, and they've got the same concerns probably that they've had all day, and that's, again, making sure that people are in compliance with the law, that they're complying with legal orders from law enforcement and requests, and, they'll probably stay there as long as they need to. But honestly, in about an hour's time, I think that could have been a potentially much more tense situation. It looks like they were well coordinated and well trained, and I'm sure people will be afforded other opportunities for free speech in that same area as the day unfolds tomorrow. So it sounds like that they were probably just making sure that the trespassing was enforced.
Well, Russ, there is a group, and you may be able to see this on your TV, there is a group still gathered there by the buildings, and the long line of law enforcers now moving toward them. Looks like they're going to try and get this group to move.
And again, I'm only being presumptuous and, want to be very cautious. I'm sure that there were, a lot of pre-planning prior to this, a lot of discussions. And, now you want to make sure there's no vandalism, as people leave. And there could always be a handful of folks in the crowd that have ill intent. So law enforcement's probably going to be concerned about protecting property and other people as well. So, they'll just continue to do their job as they've been trained to do.
Now, do they stay on site throughout the night? Is that protocol here, or is it just a case-by-case basis?
Well, I think, there are obviously leadership is, talking continuously among themselves. Again, it's a very coordinated effort among several law enforcement agencies, and, they'll be making an assessment as time goes on. But anything I would say to that would just be presumptuous.
How much training do these law enforcers receive as far as de-escalation is concerned?
Well, I think in recent years, what we've seen since 2020, there's been greater efforts to train in this specifically. And I can't speak for these individual agencies. I've talked to them periodically, and I know it's a focus of training, these coordinated efforts. So, I think good professional law enforcement agencies are constantly evaluating what's been done historically, what's been successful, and what's not. And, so this training has been ongoing. And honestly, as an observer just from TV, these folks look like they've been trained well and have done a good job tonight.
Retired Sheriff of Delaware County Russ Martin joining us with perspective on the law enforcement protocol that we are seeing in action tonight. And our Stephanie Dupre there in following how things are unfolding at this hour. Stephanie, it appears that everyone, including law enforcement, everyone's still on the move.
Yeah, Stacia, actually just 2 seconds ago, we were caught up behind police, and it took us a second to actually get back in front of them because for a second they wouldn't let us do that. I really wasn't sure why, but we finally made it back in front of them, and it seems like they're trying to, again, push the crowd even further down College Road. Again, I'm not really sure where the end result is supposed to be. They're just trying to get people, I don't know, off property somehow is what I keep hearing, is they want people off property. So again, this line of officers, as we were trying to show earlier, they're going to start moving again, so we're probably going to move with them. Again, folks are being pushed further this way. It seems like people are moving. At this point, they don't really have a choice. Officers are kind of crowd control at this point. That's what we're seeing. That is exactly what's happening right now, and we're going to walk with them. Ramon, I can see, is to the left of me, and he is also telling people, let's go, let's keep it moving. We're trying to hear how they're addressing the crowd.
We are asking you to disperse. There's nothing that can be won within this moment but arrest.
All right, go home.
Organizers are asking you all to please leave now. Please go to your cars, go to your dorms, leave now.
Guys, like, oh, former students, it's okay.
Again, those are organizers of what this protest tonight, telling people to just leave, to just go home at this point. Some are listening, some aren't. We're kind of walking with the crowd as this happens. And again, as we said earlier, it's a mix of folks. I can't tell you who's a student and who's not, but I can tell you definitively that it is a mix of people here tonight. You can hear them give that warning again.
Proceed to College Avenue, south on College Avenue to 12th Avenue, east on 12th Avenue to High Street.
South on College Avenue is what they're telling people, or where they're telling people to go. If not, back to their dorms, back to their cars, or back home. It is Again, it is almost, it's 11:20. We're 20 minutes into our 11 o'clock show. We have been out here for several hours throughout the course of the day, kind of watching everything unfold from, these folks set up that circle at 4 a.m. this morning. So that circle that we have shown you throughout the course of the day and into the night, they set that up at 4 a.m. and that's how it's been, of course, until you watched everything unfold right in front of your eyes as we've been carrying this live for almost an hour and a half now here on Fox 28 and ABC6.
Stephanie Dupre live for us there on campus. And if you are just now joining us, we want to recap what has been happening just in the last couple of hours. So we have been following the situation of protesters gathering on Ohio State's campus. Again, as Stephanie said, a mix of some students, some community members. We spoke with an instructor who was there, who was, as we heard later on, taken into custody. And we've been following this situation as law enforcement have arrived to disperse the crowd. Now, law enforcement has had a presence there throughout the day, but at 10 o'clock, things really took a turn. And this is after several warnings. We heard warnings issued to the crowd of protesters at approximately 7:30 for a 7:45 deadline to move out of the area, to clear out of the area. That did not happen. Another deadline was given. And again, that did not happen. So at 10 o'clock, we watched as law enforcement moved in, specifically troopers who moved in specifically to disperse this crowd. And we've been following live what's happening there as we've been giving you different vantage points there of the unfolding efforts there on campus.
Shortly, so they moved in right at 10 o'clock, as you pointed out, and there was a real standoff for the first 45 minutes anyways, maybe even longer than that, close to an hour. Nobody really going anywhere, nobody moving. There were folks being arrested, hauled out of what was a giant circle of multiple individuals deep, so maybe 4 or 5 people deep all the way around. And in the middle of that was a collection of green tents. We were told there were folks in there praying. And maybe a half an hour into the law enforcement moving in on the crowd, they started to make arrests, started to move people in, got into the middle of that, took the tents down. And as you may have seen a moment ago on the live camera, a lot of trash left behind. They hauled, that all dispersed. They hauled some folks out, made arrests. We counted about a dozen of those from our vantage point. There may have been more. And then one of the activists, Ramon Obey, started to tell folks, go home, disperse. And that actually seemed to be pretty effective, Station.
So as we're watching this, they continue to disperse the crowd, but as you can see, the crowd has not left the area. They've been telling them to move specifically down towards College, and they're moving them beyond that space as well. So they are no longer in the vicinity of the Ohio Union, but as you can see, still a heavy law enforcement presence at this hour. And it's been difficult to see which agencies are involved in this. We know for sure troopers are involved in this, so the Ohio State Highway Patrol has a large presence, and then we've seen several uniforms saying police, but difficult to see from our vantage points which patches might be on their shoulders. So we're not sure if it's Ohio State Police involved as well as Columbus Police, and we've not received any statements from either of those organizations indicating their intentions for this evening. But we did receive a statement from Ohio State within the last hour. We heard from Benjamin Johnson, a spokesperson with the university, telling us well-established university rules prohibit camping and overnight events. Demonstrators exercised their First Amendment rights for several hours and were then instructed to disperse. Individuals who refused to leave after multiple warnings were arrested and charged with criminal trespass. So that's where we're at this hour as they continue to disperse this crowd.
Yeah, this scene at the southeast corner of the South Oval, right by the Ohio Union here. We're looking at College Road in the foreground. They're trying to get folks to move to College Road, and then south on College Road to West 12th, then east along West 12th, presumably out to High Street, and then to disperse, to just go home, go back to their dorms, go back to their cars, as we heard Ramon tell them a few moments ago. But there are still folks lingering around, a number of which we don't really have a handle on at this point, but there are still groups and individuals lingering at the scene here. And the large law enforcement presence continues to stand abreast along College Road right now, trying to encourage people to just call it a night.
So again, we heard from protesters, their goal in the beginning was to get the university to stop doing business with companies they say support Israel's war. That's what they said their goal was. As the day progressed, that message, as they worked to get it across, they were also talking about their focus being to pray. And that's what they said. The crowd said they were protecting the folks at the center of that so that they could pray. And that's what we heard from protesters throughout the last hour and a half.
Protesters noting that the world is watching U.S. college campuses right now. They're watching in Israel. They're watching in Gaza right now. Some of the protesters we talked to decrying what they call an overreaction by law enforcers, breaking up this peaceful protest and pointing the finger at the administration at OSU as well for moving in what they feel was a heavy-handed response to what was a peaceful protest. But so far, we have not seen any widespread disruption, certainly no looting or vandalism as a result of this large gathering tonight and its subsequent breakup.
We did hear from the university president, Ted Carter, earlier this week in a strongly worded statement after some protesting happened inside the union at the end of last week. And he issued a statement saying, when protected speech becomes incitement or threats of violence, Ohio State has and will always move quickly to enforce the law and university policy. I will not compromise on this. We heard that from University President Ted Carter earlier this week. Again, a live look at this hour on Ohio State's campus as law enforcement worked to disperse protesters who had gathered there outside the Ohio Union. And Stephanie Dupre, we have not heard from her in just a few minutes because things had been moving quickly. We want to plug back in with Stephanie, who's been there for hours now following what's happening there on site. Stephanie, where are you? What are you seeing? And what is the vibe at this hour?
Yes, so we want to plug back in here, and I have a few things that I want to touch base on and talk about. We're kind of going down the line here with law enforcement. So just to kind of give you that perspective, we do have, Columbus police were here. We have Ohio State Highway Patrol. We do have, did you try to chime in there? I'm sorry. I thought I heard you try to ask me something. I'm going to continue to talk. I'm sorry. So again, Columbus Police, State Highway Patrol. We do have the Sheriff's Office here as well. So again, a line of officers just kind of making sure the crowd stays at bay, and that's exactly kind of what's happening at this point. There is really not that many people out here like there was literally 2 minutes ago. So people are taking that word of caution, word of advice from the folks who were leading this protest and telling them to go home, and that's what we're seeing now. And I want to also mention I have also been in communication just to kind of wrap up some things here, because we heard a lot from a lot of different people tonight. Of course, emotions very high as we saw some things happen again right in front of your eyes. I do want to kind of just backtrack here. I have been speaking to leaders here at the university. I believe at one point a protester did tell us on camera that they were seeing people being tased. I'm being told by the university that that is not true. So I wanted to kind of backtrack there and let you know that they're saying there are no reports of that at this moment. So that's kind of what we're working with now. We're going to zoom in here. If we can zoom in on that bus, we're going to try to zoom in here and see, officers are collecting in groups at this point. So we're going to try to zoom in here and see if people who were put in cuffs are maybe in that bus. I honestly can't tell you where those people were taken. There was a lot happening in those moments. So as we were watching people being put in cuffs, I don't know where they were being taken. It is dark. We're trying to zoom in on that bus. I don't know if they're in there or not. Again, there's a lot of law enforcement out here, but I have not been able to link up with somebody directly with law enforcement that can speak actively to the media at this point. So, we've been touch and go, with you guys back in studio and trying to get a hold of leaders here. So of course we're still trying to narrow some things down. But again, when it comes to those folks who were arrested, I can't tell you where they were. But again, we've been out here for the course of the night. People are starting to leave. There's still a chopper in the air. So we'll be out here for the rest of the night, and people are leaving. So we'll make sure we keep tabs with you on air and online. Live on campus tonight, I'm Stephanie Dupre, ABC 6 News. Bob and Stacia, I'm going to toss it back to you right now.
All right, Stephanie, thank you so much. Again, you have been watching live as protesters gather and then were dispersed by law enforcement there on site outside of the Union. Several arrests made live right here.
We're going to switch things over here now, continue our live coverage from campus over on our sister station WSYX, where the NFL draft has been underway. We're going to break in now to continue this tense situation and our coverage thereof over at the Ohio State Union. We hope you'll stay with us.